Chapter 14. Hans der Zipper Eibsie. Not so long ago, Hans said, ignoring the other animals and speaking to Pip, her eyes stinging with betrayal, I lived under the roots of a tree by Lake Eibsie, a place in Bavaria where the water is so clear it mirrors the sky and the snow-topped mountains behind. That was until one winter brought ice as hard as stone to the lake. Soon no birds sang in the treetops. No deer roamed through the forest and no creatures foraged on the ground. We starved. I buried every member of my family and I was orphaned and alone, facing the starvation that had killed them all. With what strength I had left, I walked east to find help, but the path was harder than I ever imagined. The wind bit through my bones. It gouged at my eyes with 1,000 claws, and every step was a peak I was not strong enough to climb. I can't tell you how far I walked before I collapsed in the snow, and my exhausted journey drew to a hopeless end. 2 days later, I woke in a sewer beneath the town of Rheinau, beside a rat as big as a small dog with auburn fur like mine, but as strong as 3 rats from my clan. His ruby-red eyes sent a shiver down my spine. His name was Herr General, and he had rescued me from the snow. The general nursed me back to health, all the while telling me of Germany's suffering, convincing me that we needed to help the humans find freedom and glory. Youth, loneliness and grief are the meat evil feeds on, and when I recovered my strength, I followed him into battle for the fatherland, joining his army of Goliath rats. I felt I understood honor, justice, and brotherhood. But I soon learned what it really meant. Hans continued after a long sigh, gravely looking into the distance as if he had stepped into the past. We stowed away inside vans, carrying supplies north to a human concentration camp. Herr General sent us to prey on the innocent people inside, biting them and spreading fleas to infect them with disease. I am still haunted by the cruelty I saw them inflict, and I quickly realized I had to do something. I ran away, hiding inside pipes and gutters, only reappearing to bite Hitler's guards, doctors, and officers instead. I made their lives as difficult as I could, chewing through brake cables in their cars and motorbikes and through the wires of their radio and telephone lines. One night, when I was taking potato peelings I had stolen from the camp kitchen to give to the inmates inside their barracks, I found Herr General and 2 more Goliath rats attacking a woman too weak to move from where she lay. A deadly fury stirred inside my heart, and a bitter fight broke out. The Goliath rats began hunting me, but I escaped, stowing away in a Nazi officer's truck and travelling across the German border into France. Soon after, I sneaked onto a British Lysander plane, collecting members of the French resistance to take to London. I have served Churchill's secret animal army ever since. A strong breeze blustered through the forest trees, and as Hans paused, his eyes blazed under his scars with the memories of his past. Surrounding him and Pip in the hollow under the fallen tree, the forest animals stood, captivated by his story. Enough, the eagle squawked, furiously flicking his gold eyes from one animal to the next. I cannot listen to another word. He is manipulating us. He admits it. He is a Goliath rat. He'll lead them to us all. Leave him alone, Pip squeaked, annoyed by the forest animals nervously murmuring to one another. He's telling the truth. Little wretch, the eagle cawed, limping towards her. Get away from her, Hans cried, shielding Pip's little body with his own. Axis rat batard! The eagle darted for him with his sharp, hooked beak glinting in the dappled sunlight. He was a whisker's breadth from Hans when a sudden clattering sounded, followed by a torpedo of grey feathers bursting headlong into the eagle, somersaulting him away from the interrogation wall. "G.I. Joe!" the white pigeon cooed, rushing to her mate, lying dazed on top of the stunned eagle and smothering him with kisses. "It's so good to see you again." "Hey, baby," he cooed in return, his velvety American voice cracking with pain. "How you doing, Jitterbug?" We are very happy to see you again, mon ami," the hedgehog said, hurrying to him and helping him stand. Dumbfounded, the eagle peeled himself from the earth alone and stared at G.I. Joe. "We feared the enemy falcons were too many to outrun after D-Day." "You're not wrong, Madame Fargher. I barely made it past those dodos myself." He glanced at Hans and Pip and pushed against the interrogation wall and smirked. "I'm glad you made it here in one piece, buddy. I see you've made a good first impression." "Do you know this rat?" the hedgehog said urgently. "Sure I do. I've known this hairball since he first joined Churchill's secret animal army. He's on our side, and so's the little lady." "Release them at once," Madame Fargher said, her stern brown eyes flashing impatiently from left to right. The forest animals scrambled to the prisoners and untied the ropes around their wrists, furiously snatching away her paws. Pip tenderly rubbed her wrists where the ropes had burned the skin under her fur. "Courtesy of Mr. Bernard Booth, ma'am," G.I. Joe said, unhooking the messenger canister from his ankle and passing it to the hedgehog. "John has a long moustache," the hedgehog read aloud with a smile. "This little mouse was right. Plan Violet and Operation Popeye can begin. Bring me a grape." She turned to a squirrel who dashed away at once to burrow into the ground a few paces away. Included with the original scroll was another blank sheet of paper Pip had not seen. As the hedgehog laid it flat on the ground, the squirrel returned, handing her a wrinkled green bulb. Tearing the fruit open, Madame Fargher rubbed it against the paper, revealing hidden instructions and diagrams. "Invisible ink," Hans whispered to Pip. "It appears this rat and mouse's kitten arrival demanded radio silence," the hedgehog said after reading the words on the paper. A fierce look of concentration passed over her face before she rolled it tightly closed again. "Destroy it," she said firmly, handing it to the squirrel, who feverishly ripped it to shreds with his own claws. The hedgehog looked Hans and Pip up and down. "Bernard Booth believes if a Morse code message was intercepted, the enemy would never cease hunting an umbrella mouse." "Hans and I are assigned to the mission with you," G.I. Joe cooed. "You can trust him completely, madame. His being German and a former Goliath rat has made him one of our strongest assets." "You're telling me that Bernard Booth has one of the most feared Axis animal soldiers in his command?" the hedgehog frowned. Noah's Ark muttered to one another nervously and scowled in Hans's direction. "And he trusts him?" "It sounds cuckoo when you say it like that," G.I. Joe said, "but I gotta tell you, I'd sacrifice every feather on my body for him. We've completed 10 missions together, and we're a force to be reckoned with. If anything goes wrong, he pretends to be the enemy, and it's saved my beak more than once." "And what about this mouse kitten and the umbrella?" Madame Fargher said, shaking her head in disbelief. "Mon Dieu! Whatever will these British agents think of next?" Pip stood tall, trying to look as grown-up and capable as possible. "Pip's an honorary member of Churchill's secret animal army," G.I. Joe said. "Bernard Booth's ordered that little lady and her umbrella to stay in our care, and she's to help us while she's here. She and Hans will continue east after Noah's Ark's completion of Operation Popeye." "Bernard Booth is full of surprises today," the hedgehog said with a sigh. "So, little one, you know that also means you and Hans are also honorary members of Noah's Ark." A rush of excitement pulsed under Pip's fur. Now she was a spy in Churchill's secret animal army. Getting to Italy would be easy, and fighting alongside Noah's Ark on the way didn't seem so bad. She wanted to help bring an end to the war that had killed Mama and Papa. "Alors, we must organize our plans at once, but first," Madame Fourcade said softly, looking Pip and Hans in the eye. "Forgive us for all your treatment. You must understand that enemy spies are everywhere, and we can never be too careful in these times of invasion. I hope we can be friends." She held out her paw. "As G.I. Joe said, my name is Madame Fourcade, and I am the leader of this group, Noah's Ark." "I'm Pip," Pip said, tentatively shaking paws. "Pip Hanway." Hans shook the hedgehog's paw in silence. "Welcome to the French resistance, Hans and Pip. We are pleased to have you with us." The cat yawned with disinterest, and the eagle scoffed in the corner with an angry ruffle of his feathers. Used to his temper, the hedgehog ignored him, and climbing onto a log before rows of ears pricked high upon feathered and furry heads, she addressed the hollow. "Tonight is the night," Madame Fourcade said, her voice increasing in volume, encouraging her troop like an army general sending soldiers into battle. "I told you before France fell that Hitler is not unbeatable, nor is he eternal. We must continue to nibble away at the enemy. After our Allied success on D-Day, the enemy is retreating inland. But we have not won the war yet. Bernard Booth in Stronghold has intercepted a message from the enemy, and we're going to stop them." "Stronghold?" Pip whispered to Hans. "It's Noah's Ark's code name for London, little lady," G.I. Joe winked. "Don't worry, you'll soon get the gist." "This evening we shall conduct Operation Popeye," the hedgehog continued. "The humans are moving weapons and laboratory equipment by train east to the Nacht und Nebel camp in the Vento Mountains. If we let them pass, they will travel to Germany, and from there they will gain strength. They will use the weapons on our Allied soldiers in France, Belgium and Italy. They will take the laboratory equipment to their concentration camps here in France, Germany and Poland. Innocent men, women and children will suffer, but we will not let them pass." The forest animals nodded with determination, and a proud smile drew across the hedgehog's face. "When the moon is at its highest, the train will cross the Nouveau Bois Bridge over the river beside the monastery at Bec. We will chew through the supporting beams and force the train into the water. Whatever happens, the flame of the French resistance must not and will not die." Noah's Ark cheered. Madame Fourcade paused, feeling stronger with every word. "Emile," she said, pointing to the largest of 3 beavers, sitting in the middle of the group, "go to Nouveau Bois Bridge with your wife and son now. Gnaw every timber column on the far side of the river into a point, but be careful not to chew all the way through. I will meet you there tonight when the monastery bell strikes 12, and together we will watch the train fall." Emile nodded and promptly scurried out of the hollow with the other 2 beavers at his heels. Pip watched their large, waxy oval tails vanish through the forest's trembling ground ferns, feeling a tremor of excitement beat inside her chest. "But first," the hedgehog said, turning her prickled head to Pip and Hans with twinkling eyes, "it's time our new members proved their worth."